Great, so we're here with Richard from Pittsburgh Modular.
Yes, here at NAMM 2022. Who would have thought this was going to happen? I certainly didn't, but I'm glad to be here. And this is sort of part two. We were just talking to you guys a few weeks ago at Superbooth, and now we're showing the West Pest. And the West Pest isn't the sequel to the East Beast, it's kind of like its partner in crime. The East Beast was an East Coast style analog synthesizer, and the West Pest is, if you've already figured it out, a West Coast style analog synthesizer. It shares the same digital bits, so it's just as easy to use, but the sound of it is absolutely fantastic. Totally different sound. And the reason it has this totally different sound is we're starting with an oscillator inspired by the oscillator that was in the Pittsburgh Modular Voltage Laboratory, which is sort of a mythical instrument from the past. We passed those big beefy waveforms into the waveform contour, which is a wave folder. So if I just get a little sequence going here, you can hear the wave folder. Now we'll just run through it. We're just passing a sine wave through it right now, but you can hear just huge waveforms. We can switch the waveform to, say, a saw. And it really just comes to life.
That's really growling.
It really, really has a bottom end that just growls and growls. And what that is we've come up with a proprietary circuit that we run the waveforms through before they hit the wave folder that allows them to add even more harmonics to harmonically rich waves like the saw wave. So that's how we get this almost like a Fender precision bass through an Ampeg head. Like this beautiful, like a bass player's playing in the room next to you. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's fat, but it has like a hard edge. It has a hard edge at the front of it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Gnarliness.
It's a very aggressive sound. And we could even add then some frequency modulation to the oscillator. Really just push it. With the dynamics controller. And the dynamics controller is sort of the secret weapon of this thing. This is another Pittsburgh proprietary circuit that we developed for the Voltage Laboratory. And what it does is it's essentially a filter, really, but what it does is it acts as the envelope, the VCA, and it's all in one. So what you have is this incredible shaping, but you're not just shaping like a VCA just shapes the volume, the amplitude. So it's like putting a cookie cutter over the sound. What this is doing, and let's just slow it down a touch here. Turn down that FM. What this is doing is you have that nice sharp attack, but then as the sound fades out, it's reducing the amount of harmonics in the sound. So you have something that is closer to the way sound works in nature. So it sounds, it adds a depth to it. So you have a deeper sound stage to it. So it does sound more acoustic. Yeah.
Amazing. And what kind of I/O have you got on the right-hand side, the patch panel there?
This is another great thing about the West Pest and the East Beast as well. It has a full patch panel. So you have MIDI in and out, which uses a 5-pin DIN MIDI dongle to 3.5 millimeter jack. But then you have full in and outs for everything else. So you have all your outputs for your oscillator. So you could use the oscillator if you would take this out. It's your rack compatible, so you can take it out and put it in a larger your rack setup if you want. And if you could use just the oscillator with some other stuff. You have the wave folder, all the ins and outs. So you could use another oscillator or something else from a larger system. And the dynamics controller is the same thing. Each section can stand on its own. In addition, the keyboard as well. You have a 1-octave button, touch button keyboard here. You have octave up, octave down. This has CV and gate out, so you could use this in a larger system. It also outputs MIDI, so it could be a part of any system, really, connected to your DAW. Tap tempo clock. One of the things that we're using in this right now is the multi-mode output. And what that is it allows you to use what would normally be the CC out. So if you're not using it for MIDI CC information, you can have it be a digital triangle wave LFO. It can be a digital random source, or in this case, what we're using it for is a digital envelope to modulate the waveform, just to give it additional movement. And that's fully clock syncable with the either the internal tap tempo clock or any external MIDI or external gate signal clock.
And what about the sequencer? How many steps are in the sequencer?
There's 32 steps in the sequencer, or up to 32 steps, I should say. You can see right now I'm playing a 4 or 5 step sequence here. And the way it works is you just tap in the notes and it just keeps adding them to the end. There's also an arpeggiator mode, so we can switch it very easily to arpeggiator mode, and now it functions like you would expect an arpeggiator to function. We can then transpose that. And you can transpose any sequence as well. And you can see I can seamlessly move from sequencer and arpeggiator. So now we're in sequence mode. If I press a key, it's just going to add it to that arpeggiation. You can then, if you decide this is a cool patch, you want to save this sequence, you can save it. You have up to 13 spots to save. So if you want to use them for a performance or whatnot, all the options are there.
And when's it going to be available? When's it going to be out?
It should be out imminently. So very, very shortly.
And how do they work together? Have you tried the two of them together? Do they play nicely together, the East and the West Coast?
They were really designed to complement each other really well, because what you have is parts that, this is great, but what if you wanted to pass this through that great Pittsburgh filter? That's why it's nice to have full patch points. You're not given just a curated set of ins and outs. You have full modular patch bays here on both instruments, so that you can really tie them together. You want to use the ADSR for the wave folder, for example. Additional LFOs, you have the ability to do that.
And what's the retail price? How much is it going to be out for?
The retail is $250 US and €250. And like I said, they are available imminently.
Well, it sounds like a really weighty machine, man. It sounds like got a lot of balls to it.
It's just a ton of fun to play with, and it has such a unique voice. For an analog world where everything sort of has vaguely similar characteristics, and you start to talk about, well, I like this filter over that filter, or I like this oscillator sound over that oscillator sound. This comes in with a completely different voicing. And it really makes you just want to dig in and say, well, what does this do? Why does it sound like it does? How can I use this to make some really, really interesting sounds?
Well, thank you very much for showing us that today, Richard. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I have my mask on. Thank you very much.